First of all, Rupert, start.
Cheers. Thanks. I'm so glad we're having this session. It's such an important question. So, well done. And it's great to see that there's a lot of us here. Oh, sorry, Rupert Reed from Norwich. And I've been working alongside Caroline Lucas over the last year on this idea of a progressive alliance, which I think we've got to try to investigate, although I totally appreciate what the chair has just said about how difficult it's going to be to make it happen. And I think, as already implied by Peter also, we have to look beyond just Labour. We have to think about Lib Dems, but also in the other parts of the country about Plaid and the SNP. If we're going to have a government after the next election which isn't going to be Conservative, well, it's not going to be a majority Labour government, and from my point of view, it's probably a good thing. It would be some kind of alliance between a bunch of parties, almost certainly. It is, however, as has already been said, going to be very hard to make any of this happen. Really, really hard. I want to just home in on what I think is the biggest single problem, which we need to name directly, which is that Labour is not in favour of electoral reform. Now, we know that there are lots of people in Labour now who are, and we know that John McDonnell and Jeremy Corbyn are now sympathetic to the idea. So there is potential there. One of the big things we need to do in terms of cooperating and reaching out beyond our party, if we're talking with people in the Labour Party, one of the things we need to say to them is, you have to get serious about electoral reform. Unless you want what happened in Scotland to you last year to happen to you forever, unless you want a Conservative government forever, if you want any possibility of an arrangement with us or others, you have to make a historic choice of getting serious about electoral reform. One more thing I want to say is that, as some of you may know, I chair a think tank called Greenhouse, and we are working at the moment on a report on this issue. So this is a sort of heads up to everybody. Greenhouse is working on this issue. We're trying to crunch some of the numbers. We're trying to look through some of the kind of parameters of how some kind of arrangement or deal might work. One important point in that report is going to be the thought that it can't be a purely local arrangement. And here's the reason why. It can't be purely local arrangements. And here's the reason why. Purely local arrangements would mean that the Green Party would stand down almost everywhere. Right? There are no seats in which we are in second place to the Conservative Party. So if there's going to be a deal that's going to meaningfully involve us, right, and then we're not just going to be submerged by Labour in that deal, there has to be some kind of regional or national element. We have to have something has to be in it for us, to put it bluntly, right? There have to be seats. There could be Labour seats where Labour stands down for us, for example, because we are in second place to Labour in some Labour seats, for example. Laura here is in second place to Labour. Well done, Laura. Or it could be a question of some of the seats where we're in third place or fourth place, unusual, interesting seats like the Isle of Wight, where we could actually stand a real chance. But if we're actually going to get to the nitty-gritty of this and ever negotiate a real deal, it can't be purely local seat by seat, because that wouldn't actually help us. And to put it bluntly, colleagues, I don't think that we could bring the party with us. I think that would be completely impossible unless there was something in it for the Green Party. So I hope those are some of the issues we'll discuss more in the rest of this important session.
Thank you very much. If you could give the name of your local party and your own name, please.
Hi, I'm Cadbury Gerbrocks, Green Party. I completely agree with what Rupert just said. Following on from this, I have contacted the regional Labour group regarding campaigning for the EU referendum, and they haven't even replied. So I do see there are a lot of differences and difficulties. One thing we also need to consider is, as far as I understand, it is in the Labour constitution that they have to stand anywhere they can. So I believe they would have to change the constitution before we could consider any pacts. And that's a really important point, because that means they need to get the Labour membership behind it before we need to discuss anything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The front row here, colleague. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Miles, Sheffield Green Party. In Sheffield, we have 4 councillors, and our impression of the local party there is they don't want to lose ground, they don't want to lose face, the local Labour Party that is. And whilst individual members may share some policy stances with us, as a group, we don't really get to find that out, because their decisions appear quite undemocratic in how they're made, and then they act in block in how they act on the local councils. So if we've got 4 seats, they want us to have none. So it's not very, as has been mentioned, it's not a very strong starting position. and their own democracy and their own willingness to be seen to publicly disagree with each other in the local council in Sheffield, I think is a big barrier to us working on the issues that we share with them.
Thank you, Catherine. The colleague right at the back in the aisle.
Thank you, Chair. Ian Jameson, Bourneville Ward, Target Green candidate. I too was a member of the Labour Party. I joined a very progressive, forward-looking Socialist Party in 1964 and left when I was a Labour councillor in Birmingham after watching the Mandelstam-Blair project collapse in the war with Iraq. I've been really impressed with the thinking and the progressive attitudes that come across in the Green Party. And I would caution against this Labour project. Jeremy Corbyn is a flash in the pan. He came in quickly, knowing the Labour Party and its machinations as I do, he'll go as quickly. I know Labour MPs know that he represents a new thread in politics and they're taking that on board from conversation colleagues are still know, but they're not going to let him do it. As we talk about the left, the progressive left, let's look at it. We've got Jeremy Corbyn, but we've also got the left-leaning trade unions. They support Trident because the workers work there. They support nuclear energy because the workers work there. They supported the smokestack industries because their workers work there. They are born of the smokestack era and they still belong to it. If we want to be talking to anybody in politics, it's not members of Labour hierarchies, it's not members of Labour groups or failed Liberals, it's the electorate we need to be talking to, and it's the electorate we need to be telling, vote Green because your values are our value.
Thank you, Ian. Colleague in the centre here, yes, yes.
Hi there, Tom Busy, Ashford Green Party. I'm also a member of Green Left and an Ecosocialist. I suppose I'm going to make a case for not working with Labour because, as far as I feel, the Labour Party is still a neoliberal party. I know there's a lot of nostalgia for what the Labour Party was once upon a time, but I was born in 1993, and for my whole life, the Labour Party was fighting against everything that I've ever believed in. Yes, Corbyn has come along. Is it sustainable? I don't think so. When you see the majority of MPs are still neoliberals, and they are the ones who hold the power. Yes, they have a lot more members, but they're not a democratic party. So it's them who hold the balance of power. What would working with Labour mean electorally? It would mean helping to elect neoliberal Labour MPs. And I don't think that's a cause for the left or a cause for the Green Party.
Thank you, Chair. Colleague on the centre block here, a bit further back, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Leslie Graham, Norwich Green Party. I left the Labour Party in 1994. I cried when John Smith died, and I left when Tony Blair got his job because I thought he'd be bad news. I had no idea how bad that news would get. I really want to say yes to working with the Labour Party because I think if we can't make peace amongst ourselves as the left, what hope is there for the world? But I feel I have to sound a note of caution. In any coalition, the smaller party is likely to get the blame when things go wrong, but not get the credit when things go well. They get the mushroom treatment. You get kept in the dark and fed with manure. I think Shara said yesterday about the old adage that first they ignore you, then they attack and ridicule you, and then you win. But you win on policy and on ideas, and again they get the credit. So what's happened in Norwich many times is we have a great idea, Labour mocks it, 2 years later it comes back with their name on it, and when we say, hey, we got there first, they call us liars. When I did lots of hustings with a progressive-ish Labour person, Clive Lewis, there were so many times when I got to the question first, and his answer would be, Leslie's right, but she can't win. And he had coachloads of trade union people who he told to tell residents, if you vote Green, you're letting the Tories in. So he made that true, that I couldn't win. They will play you off together. So, for example, if we put something in a newsletter, they might send a letter to all Green councillors saying, this isn't true, what have you got to say, in the hope that we'll contradict each other. They have lots of other ploys that are variations on the mushroom treatment. Having a common enemy might make us temporary allies on some issues, but it doesn't make us long-term friends. There are individuals who are very likeable, but as an institution, the more I find out about them, the less I like them. Suppose there was a party that was committed to a coherent vision that incorporated earth care, people care, and fair shares. Well, there is, and we're in it. So I suppose I conclude by saying, watch this space. I'd like to think that they'll help us if they can, and shaft us if they feel it necessary. There are some individuals that works the other way round for. They'll shaft us if they can, and help us if they absolutely have to. So, they want a better world too, and when they do something naff, I guess we have to forgive them, but we don't have to forget about it, and we don't have to make ourselves more vulnerable to it. So an important part of any decision we make has to include a risk assessment. Watch this space.
Thank you, Leslie, for your contribution. Further back, yes, there, yeah. And then, thank you.
Hello comrades, it's Simon Hales, East Staffordshire Green Party and also a very active member of Green Left. Now in our local Green Party, radicals from our Green Party have worked in the local Trades Council and the local People's Assembly, and that's provided a forum for Greens and Labour members to get on, talk to each other and work constructively. And there's a good chance that we might strike a deal with them and they'll stand aside in a council seat to let us get our first Green councillor, and we stand aside in the parliamentary election because we're nowhere big enough to run a targeted parliamentary campaign. So I think we can work constructively. I think there is some hope there. And also, if Caroline's idea of a progressive coalition does get off the ground, I would like it to be called the Rebel Alliance, and I would like us to go out campaigning in costume.
Okay, thank you, Simon, for your contribution. Can we come to the front here? There's a speaker here, and there's two first here, and then there. Thank you. No, that's right. That's right. Thank you.
Nicole Haydock for Bury Green Party. I think in a way this is the wrong question. The real issue is first past the post. We need to find a way to start this debate now, from here, with whoever wants to listen, about abolishing first past the post. In the process of that debate, the Labour Party will be engaged. They don't want to hear about it yet, but as it gets closer to 2020, whoever is the leader of the Labour Party, they'll soon realise they cannot win on their own. There's the SNP and there's the boundary changes. They know that. And in fact, I've heard Jeremy Corbyn being challenged and said, what do you think about abolishing first past the post? And he said, oh, we'll see about that. Well, of course he's edging his bet. He's waiting to see what's going to happen between now and 2020. Right? So the real debate, which I think, if I understand rightly, is what Caroline is really talking about, is have some sort of alliance with all parties that want to abolish first past the post, so the bloody Tories don't get back in again, ever! Right, that's all.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I agree. I really hear that people's concerns about working with Labour, and and I share many of those, and that's why I'm here. But this is the first time I've ever really been old enough to experience a Conservative government, and I'm kind of horrified on a daily basis at how bad it is. And I think we all, really desperately want that to end. And so, what I'm wondering is, this is going to be a really useful. This is a really useful discussion, and I wonder if it will make sense for there to be a working group set up, ideally at quite a high level that includes Caroline and Rupert and other people that are already talking about it, but also includes members that are interested in this issue, to perhaps come back to conference as soon as possible and present some options for how we could work together, because there are options. I don't know what's possible. Maybe there could be Green Labour candidates in some places if certain policy commitments were met. Maybe there could be coalitions with the SNP, with other groups. There's lots of things to look into that we're not going to have time to completely cover and nail down here. So I don't know what the process would be to get a working group like that set up. If anybody does know, please feel free to make it happen, because I think it would be really good if we actually, but nothing's going to happen in this space if we don't have some people actually bringing some options, getting the approval of conference to do it. Otherwise we will be left in the next general election just trying to do things on a local level, and probably nothing will happen, and the Tories might get in again, and that would be a great shame.
Thank you very much. I think possibly Peter will be able to pick up on that suggestion later on. Lots of people are indicating, I'll try to include as many people as possible. Could you please give your name and local party? Can we come over here, please, to the colleague at the front here?
Duncan Davis, Nottingham Green Party. Like the person over there, I was born in 1993 and grew up with Labour in government, Tony Blair, the wars, privatisations, a local council in Stoke-on-Trent that was forcing academisations and school closures. So I've got this kind of visceral hatred of the Labour Party. But I've seen it change, which has really surprised me. I didn't think it was possible. And more important than Corbyn is all the new members who have joined and support our kind of politics to varying degrees. So I think it would be good to have some kind of pact, maybe in 2020, but it's a long way off and we can't know what's going to happen yet. And I'm pessimistic that these grand ideas of a kind of grand coalition will work. I think Labour are too tribal, and I think we have our own constitutional issues that make it unlikely, like our local parties are sovereign when it comes to selections. So I think those talks will probably fall through, but we can still do something to try and prevent the Tories getting in. We could decide not to stand in certain marginal Labour-Tory seats, just to stop, just in the maybe 10, 20 seats where we actually make the difference. Everywhere else we just stand against Labour and present our politics, but we would have to actually change our constitution so that we can decide on a national level on a list of seats where we want to not stand, because otherwise local parties could just disagree.
Thank you, Duncan. Speaker at the front here. Thank you.
I think I've got the record so far. I left Labour 35 years ago to join the Ecology Party.
Could you give your name?
Graham Rowe from Sheffield Green Party. Thank you. I just want to echo the point made by my colleague in purple over there. The 4 Green Councils in Sheffield are pretty easygoing people, and they can work with anyone, talk to anyone. So they put proposals to Sheffield Council, and Labour vote them down, and then next year, lo and behold, Labour propose the same thing, and it's supported and it gets through. That's what always happens. They take the credit and we don't. At the moment in Sheffield, the Greens are completely at loggerheads with Labour, because Labour has signed a 25-year PFI contract with Amy, and what that means is they're resurfacing all the roads, redoing all the streets, street lights, and then Amy now in charge of our trees, our street trees. And if any street tree is causing a ripple to the pavement, that means it's got to be chopped down basically, because it's more expensive to maintain the pavement than it is to chop down the tree. It's privatisation gone completely balmy. That's what Labour supports. That's why it's going to be really, really difficult for Greens to work with Labour. I do hope Jeremy Corbyn can change them, but in Sheffield Council there's absolutely no sign of that happening at